Your brother predicted a ventilator shortage. He said he needed 40,000 ventilators or people would die. That shortage never materialized because the president engaged the private sector and the government to create the equipment, the PPE, the gowns, the gloves, and the ventilators that we need. And so, listen, Chris, I find it curious, speaking of your brother, you're going to ask me these self-righteous questions and talk about people taking it seriously. Does this look like a couple of guys who were taking it seriously? You had your brother on for the Cuomo Brothers Comedy Hour, so joking about the size of the Q-tip that you would need for his nose to get a test.
It was funny as hell.
Does this sound like somebody who was taking it very seriously?
I love that clip. So I was working on a video about why Tucker Carlson is killing it in the ratings and why, fake news is a thing and why people don't trust the mainstream media and why news networks like CNN and MSNBC are not doing so hot. And while I was working on that, a breaking piece of information came out, and I'll tell you at the end, but I do think it kind of ties in to what we're talking about. So we'll get into that. But first, let's look at what's going on with Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you heard, but Tucker is the most watched news show in cable history. He broke the record in the month of October. So let's look into that. It says Fox News Channel host Tucker Carlson, this is from Forbes magazine, Fox News Channel host Tucker Carlson has had the highest rated show in cable news in October, smashing ratings records and driving Fox News to its biggest primetime monthly average in the network's history. Tucker Carlson tonight drew an average audience of 5.35 million viewers, the largest monthly audience for any program in the history of cable news. Fox News had 4 of the top 5 shows in cable news. The Carlson followed, so Hannity was number 2, The 5 is number 3, The Ingram Angle is number 4, and The Rachel Maddow Show is number 5. CNN is just nowhere to be found. I thought they were the trusted news source. I guess not. But why is that happening? Well, I'm going to use Chris Cuomo as an example. That's why I put him at the beginning of this video. So Chris Cuomo holds a primetime spot on a major news network, CNN, your trusted news source. And he is one of the biggest criticizers of Trump and Trump's handling of the coronavirus, saying he wasn't taking it seriously, criticizing all his events as, super spreading events or saying that people aren't wearing masks. And that's his constant rhetoric on his show at this point. Well, let's go back a few months. Do you remember when Chris Cuomo contracted COVID-19 and he was quarantined in his basement and he was filming from his basement and updating everyone on his symptoms and what he was going through? He even had, well, I'm not saying he didn't have it, but this came out while he had it. A bicyclist, while he was telling everyone how important it is to quarantine yourself and how severe his symptoms were and how he hasn't seen his family in so long, he was spotted outside of his home by a bicyclist at another home that he was building in the Hamptons. It was just the foundation. It wasn't a home. So he had went there with his wife, his children, and another woman whom I believe they were related to. I just don't know the relation. He was spotted by a bicyclist, and the bicyclist said something to him. He said, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be in quarantine?" And Chris Cuomo got all raged and started yelling at the man. And these stories came up. He was even on Fox News talking about it. He talked to a few other news sources. And Chris Cuomo even still never admitted this on his show. He still went back to his show and pretended like he was in quarantine and then came up the stairs and had this moment where he saw his family for the first time. When we all know this happened, he was just out with his family. I don't know if it was a week later, a week previous, or a few days previous. So he straight up lied on his show, and we all know it. And the level of arrogance, I don't know if it's coming from CNN or Chris Cuomo. They didn't even, to not even acknowledge it on your show and continue this lie when we all know what happened. It's just that was a level I didn't think anyone could go to. But that, again, is why people don't watch CNN and why their ratings aren't very good. And then just recently, this came out. This cracks me up. So this was in the New York Post. Chris Cuomo scolded for not wearing a mask in his NYC apartment building. Chris Cuomo has apparently been marching around his apartment building without a mask on, despite what he preaches on his primetime cable news show. Management at Cuomo's Manhattan apartment building sent the CNN anchor a letter obtained by Fox News, Tucker Carlson tonight, that warned him repeatedly violating the order and threatened him with a $500 fine. You have been observed entering and exiting the building and riding the elevator without required face coverings. So this was on Tucker Carlson. And this, my friends, is why people don't watch CNN anymore. What a shame. And let's not forget their coverage all summer of the peaceful yet fiery riots. And I'm sorry, but if I'm standing in front of a burning building, the last thought of my mind is peaceful. And if you have to wear that much gear to report on a protest, then I wouldn't necessarily call it peaceful. But hey, that's just me and maybe millions of other people that have stopped tuning in to CNN, maybe. But I want to jump and talk about something that happened recently. So we're done with CNN. Get out of here, CNN. So if you've been watching Tucker Carlson, he's had Tony Bobulinski on. He was on the night before last, and they did a whole sit-down interview where Tucker Carlson was actually here in LA interviewing him. And last night he showed a few more clips of that interview, which they didn't show the night before. And Tucker Carlson had an extra segment where he told us about some things that were actually going on behind the scenes. So basically what Tucker Carlson said on his show was that while he was in LA, they had some documents that were pretty damning, that were pretty serious and highly confidential in his office in New York City that they overnighted to, and that had to do, I believe, with the Biden family, that they overnighted to LA so that it could get in the hands of Tucker. And while it was being sent, it actually went missing. Around 3:44 a.m., an employee went to handle it and reported that right at that time, he went to get the package and noticed that it was opened and the contents were removed, so he immediately reported it. They contacted Tucker and his team, and they're doing an ongoing investigation. They didn't have any answers at the time that Tucker was reporting, but they were very concerned about the matter, the carrier and Tucker, and had been looking and trying to find out what happened to the contents of the package. So Tucker was just basically saying what had happened, the fact that this was weird that the contents of this package were removed. It wasn't that it was damaged, it was actually opened and the contents were removed. So that was the segment. And let's look at what a few news sites talked about or said about it this morning. So this is out of New York Magazine. Tucker Carlson reports he lost only copy of documents that nail Biden. And then this is Newsweek. Tucker Carlson's missing Hunter Biden documents claim prompts disbelief. Tucker Carlson's tale of documents regarding Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and his family being lost in the mail is under scrutiny with questions over why copies would not have been made prior to them being posted. Now, this is really interesting because when I was watching that segment on Tucker Carlson, the point that he was making, what I got out of it was the point that he was making was that it's just weird how these went missing and they were taken out of the package. He never once said, not one time during that segment, watch it for yourself, let me know if I'm wrong. He never once said during that segment that it was the only copy they had. And I'm sorry, if highly confidential information like that goes missing in the manner that the package is opened and things are removed, that is very concerning. And I could see why he would want to say that on his show. But it's just odd to me that they pull out, that was his only copy. He never once said on the show that was his only copy, and that wasn't the point of the segment. The point of the segment was to tell people that they had gone missing. I actually would, if he didn't make copies, I would find that pretty concerning. I would hope that they would have copies. But again, that wasn't the point of the story, which I find weird. But then, here's the update, you guys. This just came out. So this is breaking, and now we know who the news courier was. UPS responds to disappearance of Tucker Carlson's package, damning to Biden. Okay, this just came out. This is on the Daily Wire, but I think it's on a few other places too. It says, update, USPS told the Daily Beast Thursday that they have located the missing documents sent to Tucker Carlson after an extensive search. After an extensive search, we have found the contents of the package and are arranging for its return. The USPS spokeswoman told the news outlet, USPS will always focus first on our customers and never stop working to solve issues and make things right. So The contents have been found, which is really good. It also proves that Tucker Carlson was telling the truth. They were trying to say that he was making up this false claim and trying to discredit him. And you know what? UPS did the right thing, and I like that. We know how biased a lot of these companies can be with conservative people, so I appreciate how hard they worked to find it. I'm sure Tucker Carlson will be talking about this tonight on his show. I don't know where they found it or how they found it. That remains to be said, but I'll be interested to see what happened and how they went missing and what the documents are. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts on that. Bye.